And we are live and we are back. Let's go. I'm Cory, your host, one half of the FinallyFit podcast. And I'm back like I never left with another installment of Money Mindset. Did y'all see? Look, President Trump, he's getting in office in a couple days now. These Senate hearings have already kicked off, and some of them have been insane. We're not going over the, I can't remember his last name, but the Secretary of Defense nominee. But Scott Bessent, who's getting nominated for Secretary of Treasury, there's a great recap that we're going to go over and see some of the things that he's talking about. He's looking to put in place along with President Trump and how that is going to impact our economy. And we're going to see if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Again, we don't look at the articles ahead of time here, so y'all can get that live reaction on According to Full Effect podcast. But before I get started, make sure y'all comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave those rating reviews on the podcast platforms as well. My information, as well as my co-host Jordan information, can be found in the description on YouTube. And before we get started, last but not least, this is for entertainment purposes only. Myself, nor Jordan Fitness Mind Professionals. Anything over here is for entertainment purposes only. You need to take a professional, do your own research before taking any action. All right, let's get into it, y'all. We didn't change everything. We got the taking out of context rolling. We're doing better on starting out these intros to keep y'all hooked. We're going to get into it, man. Shout out to Scott Bessent. I mean, these Senate hearings are crazy. By the way, when I was telling y'all, if you're worried about the people that's going to be nominated, people have to go through these Senate hearings, get appointed and things like that. Control the Senate. You can do a lot of things in the government as far as how the laws are set up. Our country is set up. But hey, Dems didn't care too much about make sure they kept control of the Senate anyway, though, because we're going to try to make this rather efficient video because we got a lot to get through. Trump's Treasury pick. Bessent's name is Scott Bessent, says heavier Russia sanctions coming, no reason for digital currency. There's going to be a lot of just various recaps on this video about the things that were covered during the Senate hearing. So President-elect Donald Trump's picked Treasury Secretary testified Thursday before the Senate Finance Committee, both stating his case for the position and laying out the economic agenda for the new administration. What qualifications do people have to be on the Senate Finance Committee, and how are these committees sort of formed? I need to maybe look into that because I'm interested to see exactly how they're like, hey, you should be on the Finance Committee. Like, really? Because, a lot of, Congress is the one who finances our wars. And it's like, how many people should be on the quote unquote war council or war committee if we even have that? How many of them should at least have been in the military, let alone been deployed, let alone been deployed in a combat zone, let alone actually seen combat? Right. All right. Anyway, businessman Scott Bessent, an investor, hedge fund manager, and billionaire political donor who once worked with George Soros, offered remarks, then took questions from the panel. So the highlights will include Bessent said Trump policies won't cause inflation. Here we go from Secretary of Treasury, even though Secretary of Treasury, again, is not in charge of the Federal Reserve, nor is the Federal Reserve in control of the government. He said fiscal spending is out of control. That's a fact. He said heavier Russia sanctions are on the way. Okay. Emphasized that Trump said Social Security would not be touched. All right. So Trump is saying Social Security will not be touched. Bessent said he believes the Federal Reserve should remain independent. Told y'all Fed is independent. The prospective Treasury nominee poo-pooed a U.S. digital currency. Shout out to the crypto market. Anyway, Bessent said he would work with Trump. Senator warned to eliminate debt ceiling. Bessent told senators he was open to eliminating debt ceiling. I think right now the debt ceiling is just a troll. When you live, not born in Maryland, but raised from Maryland, been here, Jesus, getting close to 30 years now. I think it'll be 30 years December. Anyways, the debt ceiling talk, like, the government shuts down, so open back up. Like, it's just like, why do we keep doing this ourselves every year, every other year, whatever it is? Like, can we just get rid of having this conversation? Y'all just find a way to like control it, like get our spending under control and not running up so much debt just like off of principle. Because at this point, I've lived long enough. It's just annoying, like, to hear, like, okay, it's gonna shut down, it's gonna open back up, they're gonna back pay everybody. All of our guys, I said before, for those of you who don't know, when the government shuts down, then when it finally opens back up, the government employees spend a lot of time I wish Jordan was here because he's actually experienced it. I haven't, because I'm a government contractor, but they spend a lot of time just filling out their time cards and getting time cards approved. Like, all these things occur when that shutdown happens and people go back to work. Now, some people, unfortunately, are hampered financially because they don't have the finances in place to withstand a shutdown, even though they do get back paid during that time frame, right? There might be some trouble, but it's so common in this area that financial institutions are obviously well aware of it and will usually work with you during that time because they know you're going to get paid once the government opens back up. The ceiling is a legal limit on the issuance of new debt by the government and has become an area of political brinksmanship in recent years. Trump said in December that the debt ceiling should be abolished, a position shared by some liberal lawmakers. A lot of people don't know classical liberalism is a modern day conservative, being like modern day conservative, just so you know. So you can't consider yourself fiscally liberal, but that's old day terminology. Now you say fiscally conservative. Anyways, once President Trump takes office, and if I'm confirmed, if he wants to eliminate the debt limit, I will work with him and you on that. He's speaking to Senator Elizabeth Warren here. Eliminating debt ceiling would not authorize any new spending by the federal government. That's Jesse Pond. And again, oh my bad, this is CNBC. We're on Old Faithful. This is by Jeff Cox. Looks like this particular statement that was by Jess Pond. So again, Scott Bessent in his Senate hearing is saying, hey, if President Trump wants to truly get rid of the debt ceiling, I'm down about figuring out how that's actually going to work. Next up, no reason for U.S. to have central bank digital currency, Bessent says. Bessent indicated that he did not think the Treasury should continue to examine the potential creation of a central bank digital currency. I see no reason for the U.S. to have additional central bank digital currency, a central bank digital currency. In my mind, a central bank digital currency is for countries who have no other investment alternatives. Bessent said, digital currency makes more sense for countries that tend to hold other foreign currencies, such as the Chinese yuan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you hold U.S. dollars, you can hold a variety of very secure U.S. assets, Bessent said. A 2022 executive order from President Biden called for the government to research a digital dollar. R&D, I mean, crypto is going to be one of those things where, I mean, we're not going on 20 years now. We're about a little over 10 years, I believe, for Bitcoin. But I think as we get into the 2040s and definitely the 2050s, you know, what side of this conversation you think you want to be on? I think everyone wants to be right when it comes to this digital currency, just crypto, Bitcoin in general conversation. Is it here to stay? Yes. Which ones are here to stay? I think is the main issue. Give me 1 second, y'all. Trying to make sure my son's not waking up. Okay, he's not. He's dead asleep. All right. So I think that's, you know, an interesting take here. It's like, you know, should we move towards the digital currency, at least figuring it out? I think, yeah, research and development should continue as if we'll actually know, because it would like to be highly classified information, what type of progress has been made on it. But I've already said this before. Not that we can't do multiple things, you know, we're the United States of America, but we just have so many things going on. Like, it's so many things that need to get addressed. And that's what I always say is, why can't we just make a list of the top things? I know we have all these secretaries, all these people that get nominated, and they're supposed to see, ensure, you know, these various facets that are required, you know, to run the country / you know, help with, you know, running the world as we do here in the United States of America. But it's like some things are like, I don't know how important this is. Like, yeah, just manage it, but we're not going to do too much funding, not going to send too much taxpayer money over here to figuring out about this digital currency issue, because aren't y'all concerned with just the flat out money that you got right now? Like, we have to think about how we're prioritizing our efforts. And sometimes a lack of prioritization ends up creating a slew of problems. And then there's all these debates about which problem should be attacked instead of just prioritizing the problems. Problems will not go away. All right. And so we just need to focus. Like, I mean, a lot of people's main thing right now is just the economy in general, right? Inflation, housing prices, you know, cost of groceries, gas, things like that, getting that under control. Because people want to be able to buy houses, people want to be able to afford to send their kids to college, yada, 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 all these various things. Then there's just talks about, in general, these proxy wars we're in, not in, and Trump won't get them down, and what's going on, sanctions on Russia, sanctions on tariffs on China. Like, there's all these other things that are going on. We got the health crisis here in America. I mean, we got the largest health crisis in the world as far as overweight and obesity. Like, there's so many things that are going on. We got the abortion issue that a lot of people care about. We got the 25%er issue that a lot of people care about. Shout out to LGBTQIA, 25%ers, right? We got all these various things. It's like, where do y'all want to put the digital currency at? Do y'all even got, never mind. I mean, y'all even got money to invest. I thought y'all don't have any money. We did the last video about people complaining about, you know, TikTok going away and how people are able to make side hustle money on that. But like, there are so many issues that we're facing in America. Our education system, my goodness, right? Think about the stuff I just named. And I finally was like, oh yeah, remember our education system? I wasn't talking about it then when I was talking about the cost of college, right? But there's so many issues that we have and that we kind of need to make sure we're properly prioritizing. All right. Up next, again, that's by Jesse Pond again. Bessent declines to endorse raising taxes on high earners. Let's see if we can get clarity here on high earners. In an exchange with Democrat Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, Bessent repeatedly declined to say that he would be willing to raise taxes on America's highest earners. He reiterated his support for extending the tax Cuts and Job Act from Trump's first term. There's no income level that I don't think we should continue with the TCJA as it was. Bessent said. So he's looking to extend and short the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that President Trump implemented in his first term. And my guess here, when they're talking about high earners, definitely probably talking about billionaires. But my guess is, I mean, the 7 tax brackets are definitely probably talking about 35, if not, I mean, definitely 37% tax brackets. That's the highest one. So talking about people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We went over a couple episodes ago about how to win with money in 2025 and what the tax bracket rates are going to be for this year. So he's talking about people who make multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and how that's going to impact them. And he's also probably getting into, I listened to this video, but just the topics they usually discuss, in short, tax cuts to benefit the billionaires and things like that. Federal Reserve should be independent. I mean, I guess. I mean, how are we going to take it over? All right, shout out to the Federal Reserve and who's running that. Bessent said he believes that the Federal Reserve should be able to make decisions on interest rates independently from the White House. On monetary policy decisions, the Federal Open Market Committee should be independent, Bessent said. Okay, I mean, that's what they're doing. All right, I'll probably get into one of these videos here soon. Bessent says Trump's policies won't increase inflation. Let's see if we can watch this. All right, here we go. I knew it was going to be an ad. As the ad is playing, my goodness. Bessent said he expects inflation to be much closer to the Federal Reserve's 2% target under Trump. We'll see. While acknowledging that decisions by Congress and the central bank could play a role in the direction of inflation. Let's remember, Congress is red now. I don't know if they officially put everybody in. I think they did, but no. The entire federal government is red. Senate, House, executive branch, judicial branch, it's red. All right, let's see what we can get into now.
Other top one of my other is working on a bipartisan basis.
It's hard for me to get through this stuff. I got to do better and become a better content creator and let these videos maybe play more. Why is it bipartisan to lower the cost of living, like in the sense of making things affordable for the people in your country, the people that are funding your salary, paying for your salary as far as the taxpayer? Again, things we should prioritize. Let's get a list of things that are not bipartisan, like national security, not bipartisan. Now, how you go about it should be bipartisan. That might be what they're referring to. But a lot of times it's just like there should be just some general things that we need done as Americans. And regardless of what side of the aisle you're on or you believe, like, this is not a bipartisan effort. Like, y'all should always be just making sure that inflation isn't out of control. Obviously, economics, cyclical, yada, yada, yada. But like, I don't want to hear that you're trying to get some bipartisan thing done to figure out inflation and so people can afford things. Why are y'all not just figuring this out? Why y'all got to make sure you're on the same side? Right? That's where our system is at. But I think these are the things that people miss that impact them negatively in the long term that people may not be paying attention to.
Do you believe the prices for families will go up or down?
I believe that inflation will be much closer to the Federal Reserve.
That's a trick question. She said, do you believe that prices will go up or down? Remember, inflate, increase. So we have inflation essentially every year. What he's likely going to say, as we read just in the paragraph right below this, is that they're going to try to get it to the 2% number that the Fed seeks, meaning the Fed wants prices to go up at about 2%. All right, so if something is $1, that means the next year it's going to be $1.02. Okay, and then the next year it's going to be what is 2% of $1.02? Yeah, it's going to be 4 cents. I mean, it's going to be round. That's what I thought. But it's going to be $1.04 another year. So when she said her price is going to decrease, I don't think the price is going to quote unquote decrease. It's that inflation is in that 2 to 4% range they want it to be at. Then a lot of times, again, people pay increases will usually be the low end 3 to 4%. So at least you're keeping up with inflation. You might not be making progress, right? But at least you're in the same position. Things aren't like inflation isn't like close to like 10%, and then your raise is 3 to 4%. All right.
Reserve's target of 2%. And I believe that what we have seen over the past few years is that the bottom 2 income quintiles have a very different basket of goods and services. So there are 2 ways. We can either lower cost or we can get real wages up. I would hope that we would be able to do both.
So you believe that
Again, exactly what I'm saying. So he's not, when he says lower costs here, he doesn't want to say inflation went down, right? He doesn't want the price of goods really to go down. He wants there to be a leveling as far as, or a decrease in how much prices are going up. So in short, if inflation, let's say, was 10%, so instead of something being $1, it's $1.10, he wants the next year for inflation to go down, but it's still, prices still went up. So instead of going up 10 cents, they went up 10%, excuse me, they went up 2%. All right. And then obviously wages increasing. But a lot of the issue with wages increasing, I talked about in the last video, with the TikToker, what skill set do people have to actually make money to help the country move forward? So a lot of times when I hear people complain about, the infrastructure, the things like how things are set up in America and how much better stuff these other countries have. Well, what skill set do you have? Are you in STEM? Do you do any type of software development, engineering, as far as, on the computer side of things? Or do you any type of electrical engineering? Do you do type of infrastructure, civil engineering? Like, do you make things that isn't just like content for people to laugh at? Like, can all you do is dance, right? Like, what do you actually build to help develop new technologies or at least sustain what we currently have? Right? I made the comment where like, yeah, I know people can play video games, things like that, but some of them men need to go out and like do work. Like we have a shortage of plumbers, right? We have a shortage of, in short, blue collar workers, right? That's what we need. Okay, so when people are complaining, and these jobs, you can make a lot of money doing these jobs, just working, let alone having a business in them. Plumbers can make a whole bunch. Electrical workers can make a whole bunch of money. Some of these jobs are very dangerous jobs, but what are you actually producing in our economy to make our life better? And a lot of people can say nothing.
President Trump's policies will further increase wages and lower inflation.
I believe that they will increase
See the keyword there, which said lower inflation. They kind of, I mean, they interchange them, right? Semantics here, but it's just good to understand from an education standpoint. It's about lowering inflation more so than decreasing prices, right? That's not the same thing. A price decrease means it's not instead of it being $1, it's going to be 95 cents, right? Lower inflation would be instead of being 10% inflation, is 2%.
real wages and lower inflation closer to the Federal Reserve's 2% target as it did during President Trump's first administration.
Are there any specific policies proposed by the president-elect that you expect will increase prices for families?
They're not.
So again, now she's saying increase prices versus decrease inflation. So, the prices are going to increase because he wants the inflation to be 2%. So if inflation is 2%, that means prices are going to increase. Now she's really saying here, inflation being over that 2 to 4% marker that they're trying to hit.
I think I can.
President-elect were to propose a policy that you believe will increase prices, would you advise against it?
There's no issue with increasing prices. Again, I'm not trying to keep cutting it off, but I want to, put the internet timestamps on there of correcting things. She's saying make it higher than that roughly 2% mark that they're trying to hit when it comes to increasing prices. Prices are going to increase. That's what inflation is. Increase, inflate. Okay, you inflate a balloon, it increases in size.
I would speak to President Trump about it. It is his decision.
Again, him saying, hey, I don't have the final say, so President Trump, in short, is my boss. So I'm going to tell him maybe not to do something, but if he does it, then he does it. He does do my recommendations, right? I'm Secretary of Treasury, but, I'm in an advisement type of role.
I believe that we think that if we look back, that it is a complete composite return in terms of numbers, and I think it's
And again, I think, part of the issue right there is, so they're going to have the question like, did President Trump increase prices? And they'll say yes. But then someone like me will be like, even President Biden, Obama, whoever it is, it's like, no, what are the inflation numbers? I don't care that prices increase. They're supposed to increase. All right. Again, yeah. So they want to keep it to the 2%. When asked, okay, here we go. The proposed tariffs and government spending from the Trump campaign led to concern among some economists and lawmakers that a Republican win could put upward pressure on inflation. Jesse Pond again. Bessent says heavier sanctions on the way for Russia. Russia, and particularly oil companies, can look forward to tougher sanctions under the Trump administration if any officials in the Russian Federation are watching this confirmation hearing, they should know that if I'm confirmed in President Trump requests as part of his strategy to end the Ukraine war, that I will be 100% on board for making sanctions up, especially on the Russian oil majors, to the levels that would bring the Russian Federation to the table. So long story short, they're trying to strong arm Russia financially to get this Ukraine-Russian war over, not looking to, send troops. I think the next time we in a war, Middle East type of war, there's going to be a significant issue going on. You're not talking about a problem going on. It's going to be a significant issue. But, they're trying to say, look, Russia, let's get this war over with. Okay, a whole other conversation about the Russian-Ukraine situation. But they're trying to get the war over, right? And they're saying, hey, let's do these sanctions on them, right? And here's the thing, too. Let's just hypothetical here, just general math. But let's just say right now we're sending, for simple math, we're sending $100 million over to Ukraine for this war on a yearly basis. Let's say that stops because the war ends, but then prices due to oil increase by $50 million on us a year, right? Well, we up 50 million. It's not exactly how it works. But as far as when they're saying like, hey, gas prices went up due to this oil sanction that we put on Russia, but then also too, there's a plan to increase in how much oil how much we're producing domestically. So that's a whole other thing. But it's about the whole cost trade-off, right? Like we decrease spending $100 million, but now we're spending another 50 million. So we're spending 50 million less dollars in short. So they're trying to get more money back into America, and that might come at the cost of sanctions, which we might see, a direct impact as far as when it comes to gas prices. But they're not just saying, hey, we're going to put these sanctions on Russia and gas prices are going to go up. We have a plan, in theory, to, have more production over here stateside, which would help offset those costs or not even have those costs. We get the war ended, right? And we don't have to worry about the actual cost due to the sanctions because, we're producing that oil here ourselves. That's just the simple logic of it. Bessent says U.S. fiscal spending is out of control. Anybody? Oh man, I wish I had enough time. Anybody could have told you that. The U.S. has a pressing spending problem that's spiraling out of control. Bessent said at his confirmation hearing, we do not have a revenue problem in the United States. That's correct. Our revenue is in the trillions of dollars. We have a spending problem. Yes. Bessent said anyone who's operating at a deficit has a spending problem. For a fact. This is one of the things that got me out from behind my desk and my quiet life in this campaign was the thought that the spending's out of control. Rising financing costs alone. So that's how much it costs to take out debt. So Fed interest rates, in short, along with continued spending growth and declining tax receipts, have combined to send deficits spiraling and have pushed the national debt past 36 trillion. Woo. We hit 100 trillion in my lifetime. Let's see. The 3 trillion, that's even the 3-month fiscal year 2025 deficit rose $710 billion, some 200 billion more than the comparable period in the prior year, or 39.4%. My goodness. We have never seen this before when it is not a recession or not a war. One would say we are in a recession and a war, but that's another conversation. This is from Bessent. Treasury, along with full government and Congress, has used its borrowing capacity to save the union, to save the world, and to save the American people, and that we currently have now. We would be hard pressed to do the same. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see the economics under Trump. There's a lot of things, right? We got inflation, and then we got spending and trying to get under control. We got the debt ceiling limit. Like, there's a lot of these things, right? Social Security is not going to be touched. When it came to Social Security, there are no plans to lower the payouts from President Trump, under at least his administration. Trump said this: Social Security and Medicare will not be touched, according to Bessent. Potential cuts to Social Security next decade based on current funding. Next decade, Trump's not going to be president for 4 years. Funding projection is one of the issues. Also, y'all said we put money into something we're not going to have. So I'm like, why am I putting money into it in the first place? Let me have that money back. Bessent did say that the government needs to get a short-term house in order before looking at other ideas, such as supplemental fund to help support the entitlement spending. Let's see how many more of these we have to go. Okay, we're almost done here. All right, now we're getting to Bessent predicts sudden stop for economy if tax cuts not extended. Ooh. Extending the so-called Trump tax cuts will be a top economic priority. So they're trying to get these Tax Cuts and Jobs Act extended. This is pass fail if we don't fix these tax cuts. If we do not extend it, we're going to be facing an economic situation. We will see a gigantic middle class tax increase. Ooh, so much with this. long story short, the tax bracket, the marginal rates is using at 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37% that I'm always talking about. Those are set at that percentage, not the bracket as far as how much is taxed in those bracket ranges or in those ranges, but at those percentages were, some of them were lowered by Trump with these tax cuts and job acts. So that's when they're saying you want to see tax cuts increase. I believe there's a 15% in there, or 25%. It's hard for me to remember those. But in short, that's what they're talking about there. So you can look up what the marginal tax rates were before the Tax Cuts and Job Acts, or what they'll go back to if this doesn't get extended. Trump's administration policies will unleash the American. So the American economy is going to do better under Trump. This is from his opening statement. The nominee's opening statement was light on policy specifics, but did generally lock it. President Trump has said we will unleash the American economy by implement pro-growth regulatory policies, reducing taxes, and unleashing American energy production. See, I think one of the things is you might not like Trump, but we should want the financial situation of the United States of America to improve, right? And if he believes what he's going to do is going to do that, cool. When economists are saying, who would disagree with this, saying that's not going to work, again, economics is variable. There's no one thing fits all, right? Investors cheer selection of Bessent. As Bessent prepares to testify, he got a vote of confidence. Stock market rose. Okay, cool. Bond market rallied. And obviously, yes, he's a billionaire and he has experience in hedge fund. Obviously, we're not quote unquote the stock market, but again, coming from a business perspective, which a lot of people want to see more in politics. You got Elon Musk, you got Vivek Ramaswamy, where we want to see, there are people out here who want to see more business-minded people, i.e. Trump, right, running the politics in this country. And then Bessent is involved in planning gradual tariffs for Trump. Yeah, we know about tariffs. We talked about those. He's one of the advisors working on the tariffs gradually. Scheduled gradual tariffs increasing 2 to 5% on a monthly basis for our trading partners. The proposal is not finalized yet, so obviously, still got to get things situated with it. And Kevin Hassett is set to be the director of the National Economic Council, and Stephen Moran, nominated to lead the Council of Economic Advisors, were also involved in discussions with Bloomberg. So in short, these tariffs look like they're coming. Okay, and Bessent is pledged to defend the U.S. supply chains and the dollar. I didn't mention tariffs directly, but he wants a muscular policy. I've never heard that used before. When it comes to defending U.S. interests overseas, we must secure supply chains that are vulnerable to strategic competitors. Again, they're going to probably use national security as well. Yes, we got to be able to have resources. It is that simple. All right. Trump has proposed across the board levies against U.S. global trading partners, though it's possible he could tailor tariffs against certain goods and services. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, as we wrap up here again. Treasury pick Scott Bessent, heavier sanctions on Russia coming. We know a lot of things here, Social Security, the economics, but there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to see coming into play here just on the economic side with President Trump getting into office and his cabinet. If Scott Bessent, is appointed as Secretary of Treasury, he in short is saying he's going to do what he can to help Trump get done what Trump wants to get done. All right, that's it, y'all. Lock and load in the episode. Again, make sure you comment, like, share, and subscribe. Shout out to YouTube algorithm. Make sure you leave those rating reviews on the podcast platforms as well. My information, as well as my co-host Jordan information, can be found in the description on YouTube. I'm talking fast here, intentionally talking fast. I'm trying to get out of here. It's going to be very interesting to see, like I said, I keep saying, how things play out. There are people who don't want this, people who do want this. At the end of the day, Trump is, he's going to get elected here in a couple of days. And, we didn't even talk about immigration, right? It's going to be interesting, though. I think they passed it where they're saying in the House where, illegal immigrants who committed law and order SVU crimes, they got to get deported, getting up out of here. So, look, it's coming, by the way. I'm going to come, right? Shout out to President Trump. Don't come. Do not come. Shout out to Vice President Harris. President Trump is about to be here, right? Was it Trump 2025, technically getting elected. And it's going to be an interesting 4 years. Democrats, y'all better figure it out because y'all don't got nobody ready for J.D. Vance as of right now. It's going to be an interesting time here. But again, don't worry about what the government is doing to impact your life. You need to get out here and put in that work to correct your life. All right, that's it, y'all. Remember to say more and say less. Keep making better your best. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.